I'm Kerry Brown, Associate Fellow of Chatham House, Professor of Chinese Politics and Director of the China Studies Centre at the University of Sydney and leader of the Europe-China Research and Advice Network funded by the European Union. The leadership in China, we have usually looked upon them as being faction-based, so that they have allegiances to, for instance, a princeling faction or a state oil faction or even a Shanghai faction. But I think that this is too static. Actually, relationships and links in China are very dynamic, and there is a sort of lot of energy in those links, and so really we're more interested in different kinds of networks built around particular figures and the ways that they have built up political capital and the formation of political capital over their lives through provincial postings or through serving in ministries in Beijing and through those kind of other links, very diverse links. China's now got a much bigger global role because of the size of its economy. It's got more influence. It's still very hesitant to take a big leadership role, and you have a more disparate leadership in a sense. They don't all agree on everything. In terms of their international role, of course, that's even more complicated, and so you really have this issue of a leadership, a diverse leadership, more diverse than probably we thought, who are pulling in different ways, some who maybe want more influence, some who want less. And so internal issues really kind of dictate how China faces the world and how its leadership relates to the world, and then how society in China relates to the world. And so that has, of course, affected people's interpersonal relations and made it more complicated. And so once upon a time we would have talked about maybe clearer links between people, but now there's a much denser market of relationships. And in a sense, this really is a social response to the huge economic changes that have happened in the last 34 years in terms of how people relate to each other and how they have power over each other and how they have influence over each other and make that into political influence. China will become more complicated. Its economy is obviously increasingly dynamic, and it will increasingly it'll grow. It's going to be a growing economy for the foreseeable future. I mean, unless there's an enormous disaster, and then that's a disaster for us as well as China because of the links between our economies. And so I think we're going to see a sort of Chinese political change and growth and development, which will be very particular to China, that will create challenges for this leadership, and that they'll be interested in ideas from within and also from outside. And we have to engage in that process much more deeply and really kind of think through what it means not only to us but also to people within China and the leadership in China.